Hey mamas, now is the time to talk about your body and all of the natural hormones that are released into your body for birth and how you can work with them and not disrupt them. I'm Annabelle, RN, BSN, birth doula, and mama, and I'm here to build your confidence in birth. If you're interested in this content, then subscribe to my channel and ring the bell to stay up to date to my latest content. So today we're gonna have a heart-to-heart. We're really gonna get down to the science behind your body, and I am going to tell you some things that might make you feel a little uncomfortable and are not just my opinion. I was talking to my husband this weekend and I was talking about the content that I'm bringing to y'all, and is it really helpful? Is it really building mom's confidence in birth? Is it what I truly believe? And to be honest with you, I have not been as tough on you as I really want to be. I absolutely support natural birth, vaginal birth without medications. But it's not just my personal experience that has been built on that. It's not just my opinion. It is supported by history and by science. There's so much research that builds up and supports the fact that vaginal med-free births are best for mom. And so with that thought process, a lot of moms comment or say to me, well, you're just not being very respectful of the fact that I needed an epidural. The pain was too much. It wasn't a good birth experience for me without it. And I want to tell you moms that have had epidurals or even are thinking about epidurals, I am not putting you down in any way. I completely am on your side. But I don't want to take away the fact that in the medical community and even just in our world, epidurals have been very supported as safe and don't disrupt the birth process, and mom should have the right to have an epidural. Not all of the information has been given to those moms about the fact that epidurals disrupt the hormones being released in your body and they will change your birth experience. And that's something that as a mom, you deserve to have the best birth experience. And so with preparation and with the knowledge that you need as a mom, you can say epidurals take away something that I deserve in my birth memory. And epidurals can cause a cascade of events to happen that I never wanted to happen in birth. And so I can sit here today and honestly tell you that what we're going to talk about with our hormones today support the fact that epidurals are not good for moms to have in their labor process. A natural med-free birth is the best option. And then even on the other side of that, when moms say, well, I can't have a natural med-free birth because I know that I have risk factors and I might have to have a C-section, or I'm on the other side of it and I had to have a C-section, and you're not being very supportive of that. I completely support C-section. They save lives, but the research shows that too many moms are having to have C-sections for not emergency situations. And so that all starts with your mindset towards your hormones, your positivity towards birth, and what your body is able to do, and getting ready for that. And so that's what all of this content is about, is to help you get mentally and physically prepared to go into birth saying, I can do this, I can give birth vaginally and without drugs, with no medications, and my body can give birth naturally. So as you are going through your pregnancy, your baby's growing inside of you, you have all these hormones building. And as you get closer and closer to your due date, your baby is going to start sending off these signals saying, I am ready to be born. And so as labor gets closer, you're wondering, when is it gonna start? My due date's coming up. When is labor gonna start? How can I initiate labor? And the fact is, your baby is really in control of that. When your baby is ready to be born and your placenta is at its max, the due date's coming up, you're gonna have these signals in your body, these chemical messengers that say, okay, now let's start labor. And so that's why inducing labor too early can be a problem for baby. If baby's not ready to be born, if baby's lungs are not completely developed, if baby hasn't put on enough fat to be healthy at birth, that can be a problem with premature delivery if it's medically induced for maybe a reason that wasn't an emergency. So really talking to your doctor about, okay, you're talking about having to induce me. Is it really medically necessary? Is baby ready to be born? So baby's gonna send off all these chemical messengers. Also, you're going to have prostaglandins start to be released in your body. Prostaglandins start to soften your cervix, and with the softening of the cervix, it can start to open and thin out, and we want that to happen before labor starts. We want the cervix to start getting prepared. Okay, I'm gonna get ready to start opening, thinning out so baby can come down and out of the birth canal. Now I'm going to talk about my favorite hormone when it comes to your labor and birth process, and that hormone is oxytocin. Oxytocin, maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. In our society, we call it the love hormone or the cuddling hormone. It is going to give you feelings of goodness, empathy, trust, and bond with your baby. But in labor, it's not usually talked about in that way. We think of oxytocin as causing contractions. Oxytocin is released from your brain, the pituitary gland specifically, and it travels down to your uterus in labor and causes those contractions. Your uterus is a big muscle, and so all those receptors on that big uterus, they're going to attach with that oxytocin and then cause squeezing of those muscles, which is good. It's going to cause your baby to come down, press on your cervix, and open up that cervix so baby can be born. And I know when you think contractions, you've heard all these moms talk about contractions and how painful they are, and they are painful, but it's a good pain. It's a pain with a purpose. Your body is going to respond in a very healthy way with this pain. Oxytocin, what we don't usually hear about is the fact that it doesn't just get released into circulation and travel down to your uterus, but it's also released into your cerebrospinal fluid. And what does that mean? That means that it actually crosses into your brain and affects your brain. This is where the trust, the bonding, the empathy, and the good feelings come in. This is where oxytocin is going to prepare you as a mom to take care of your newborn baby. So maybe you have also heard of moms that say, I got an epidural and then they had to put me on pitocin or pit, and that pit really hurt. It caused so many severe contractions. So we do have a medication called oxytocin. It's a synthetic form of your natural hormone. And what's the problem with that? It's a synthetic form. It's acting just like my normal oxytocin. It does cause contractions. The problem is that that medication does not cross into your blood-brain barrier, into your brain, and give you the same nurturing, trusting, bonding feelings towards your baby. So this is how it often works. Moms are either medically induced with pitocin, or they have an epidural placed, and with that epidural, contractions aren't happening as quickly and as much as the doctor wants, and so they start mom on pitocin. Both of those disrupt your normal release of oxytocin. And so these moms that have epidurals placed or have pitocin given are not experiencing that same feelings towards their baby. The other thing is that when pain is taken away from the body, when there is no pain in labor, that oxytocin is not released like it should be. And so there's parts of our brain that sense that pain, and then that part of the brain releases another hormone called endorphins. We love endorphins. Endorphins are great. We call them nature's morphine. And what endorphins do is they really work together with oxytocin in your labor process. As oxytocin is being released in these waves into your body and causing those contractions, endorphins kind of balance out that oxytocin. They calm it down a little bit, and they affect your brain saying, you can handle this pain. You can do this. And they put you in this dreamlike state of feeling out of this world. What's going on? I'm becoming more primal. I really have a good feeling towards this whole experience, even though it's painful. And so that oxytocin with those endorphins work together to help you cope with the pain of labor. And like I said, if you take away that pain completely with the epidural, you are minimizing your oxytocin, the pain's gone, and you are also taking away a sense of pleasure that works together with that pain of labor. And that is a beautiful process that is innate to you as a mom, that is going to help you after birth continue to bond with your baby. Research shows that when you get to the pushing phase of labor, that is when oxytocin is at its peak. The endorphins are peaking as well. You expel your baby. In the medical term, you give birth to your baby, and that big rush of oxytocin endorphins gives you this long-term bonding and euphoria, this happy feeling towards your baby. And this is what research is showing is causing this amnesic effect. Because of the oxytocin and the endorphins, moms that give birth naturally start to forget the whole painful process. Whereas moms that have epidurals placed and that oxytocin is disrupted and that oxytocin is not affecting the brain in that way, moms don't have that amnesic effect. So moms that have epidurals placed and had labor happen a little bit beforehand really remember the intensity of those contractions, really remember it as excruciating. These are the moms that are more at risk for postpartum blues and depression because they remember that pain, because that oxytocin did not affect their brain in a very positive way. They are prone to hormonal disruption and entering into postpartum blues and possibly postpartum depression. And that is what I'm talking about when I say moms have something stolen from them when they are just so easily presented the epidural. It's safe, it's effective, you can have a great birth memory with this because you won't remember the pain because there was no pain. That, my friend, is somewhat of a lie. Because like I've explained, all of this, if all of these things are true, why do we keep saying that epidurals are okay? That moms should just have that option, that it's a good option. 80% of moms in the United States have epidurals placed, and that means 80% of our moms have something taken away from them as women that empower them, that help them nurture their babies in a very healthy and beautiful way. You might also hear about some hormones called catecholamines or adrenaline in your birthing process. And this is where doctors and some doulas and other birth educators say this is why moms need to have the option for epidurals. If moms are not coping well with the labor process, if they have never had something this painful or intense in their lives, maybe they're not gonna cope well with it. And I've watched these moms, they say they wanna give birth naturally, but it's not looking good. And that means that possibly too much adrenaline is being released into mom's body, causing anxiety, causing an inability to cope with the labor process. This is true. Adrenaline being released during the first stage of labor is not good for the labor progress. Too much adrenaline being released can cause the slowing of contractions. So what do we do about this? Do we just say, yes, moms, let's give you an epidural, it'll help you cope better, and that way we can help labor progress? Well, an epidural is gonna slow the progress of labor as well. So then we're gonna have to give you pitocin to help speed up the process again. So how can we do this in a more natural way? You have too much adrenaline being released, you have too much anxiety, you're not coping well. What is the option? This is where preparedness is so key. In my opinion, moms need to be mentally prepared for birth, more so even than physically. Your body is equipped to do this. You get into labor and you're gonna start changing positions even if you've never done these weird positions before. I love to help moms get prepared in that way. Physical preparedness is very important, but I think mental preparedness is so key. And this is where a childbirth class comes into play. This is where your birth coach comes into play. Those two things, getting a class so where you can know what are the stages of labor, what can I expect the pain to be like? Is it really gonna be painful? What is the purpose of pain? What is my body doing? It's kind of scary to think of a 7 to 9 pound baby coming out of my vagina. Like, what is that like? And I don't really wanna talk about it, but I know I need to. And is my birth coach ready to be involved in this process? Is my birth coach there with me continuously from the beginning of labor to the birth of my baby? So important. When you take a childbirth class, that's gonna teach you about having a dark room, a calm room, a quiet room, when you're at home, how to labor, when you get to the hospital, how to create that environment to keep the nurses away unless they're absolutely necessary, to keep techs out of the room, to keep the curtains pulled, to have music and movement. All of this is going to be helpful to you. So preparedness is key. Understanding that your hormones at work are going to help you give birth the way that will give you an amazing birth memory. So I know this was a lot to talk about, and I'm really gonna take each of these steps and these hormones and break them down more in separate videos. But I want to encourage you, mom, natural birth, vaginal, med-free birth is not just this out there idea for crunchy granola moms that maybe wanna do something different. This is for every woman that is about to give birth. Natural birth is what you were created to do, and I want to give you back the power that you deserve. So if you're interested in already taking the next step with me, I have a free workbook for you in the description below. It's my 4-step process to a natural birth. If you're still unsure, then keep watching this content and let's get to know each other more. Put in the comment section below something that maybe was interesting to you or you want to know more about. I will see you in the next video.